So that's a peek into the life of Logan Paul, who's like good looking, athletic, popular, got girls, blew up on YouTube when he was young. Why would you need to read a book?
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah, we had a very different kind of come up. So, but you know, I respect him. He's evolved a lot, you know, like, I mean, fuck. It's hard. It's hard handling fame at that young age and money and all that stuff and juggling it and not, you know, turning out into a total fucking retard, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how his brother went the dark side role, the Floyd Mayweather role instead.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting watching it too because I saw what he was doing and it was like, you know, he's basically like playing the villain. And I'm like, that's going to sell. I mean, I had this conversation with him. I was like, you know, you're going to sell fucking tickets, but if you lose, it's like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like if you make everybody hate you and then you fucking lose. Right. So he, you know, fuck man, he went all in on that. And I respect it, you know, to have like big success, you have to, you know, take fucking risks. And I feel like he did take risks doing what he did. And basically just like embracing the asshole.
Right. Do you feel like you're doing that to a certain extent? Just start playing the villain. Stop trying to be what the mainstream wants you to be, what's considered marketable.
I definitely never did that. I definitely never tried to be marketable. I would say that I probably advertise my worst side. I wouldn't say that I play it up too much. I think he kind of plays it up. Like he's more of a shit talker and this and that. And I kind of just like never publicized any like the charity stuff I did or any of that stuff. So I feel like I leaned into kind of like my hedonistic stuff, which doesn't make you a bad guy, but it doesn't make you a good guy either, you know? And it's certainly something that, you know, a lot of people probably, you know, look down on or whatever. From a religious standpoint or morality standpoint, whatever, I'm sure you know, get similar stuff. But I think his is a little different, like I said, because I think he just kind of like positioned himself, like calling people out, talking shit. I never really did that. I just kind of, you know.
Yeah, you never leaned on the beef thing. But with Jake Paul, like when I see him picking the fight with Dana White, even though I like Dana White and I like everything he's created, but I'm like, that's a pretty good fight for him to pick, you know? Pick the side of the workers. It's going to be one that elicits a lot of sympathy, regardless of if you're right or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, it's worked. He got attention, you know, Dana White, you know, I think he ignored it for a while and then he kind of had to acknowledge it. And once he acknowledged it, then, you know, now you've got a two-sided beef and the media loves that. So I think, you know.
Because we're in a different state of mind where I find myself tending to empathize with the billionaire more.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. You know, you know, you see the business side where it's like, you know, the goal of running a business is to make the most amount of fucking money, you know, and then, which is what Jake wants to do too. So it's a little hypocritical, you know, to call him out, because I think if Jake was in his position, he'd probably be trying to make the fucking max.
And anyone who runs a business knows that there's a shitload of hidden costs that the world doesn't see. The world might see the box office coming in, and they don't know about every dollar you spend on security and God knows what to make all of this happen. So they just assume that the fighters should get a bigger chunk than they are, when in reality, most of those fighters aren't really they're basically interchangeable from the perspective of Dana.
Well, and I think that's probably the biggest risk to the UFC is their interchangeability. Like, I feel like back in the day, there was guys that like stayed on top for longer and you built a story and you kind of like got attached to these guys, but now everybody's so fucking good that it's like people don't stay on top as long. But with respect to the, you know, the business side of it, I think there's also a piece of it too, where, you know, that initial startup capital that's the risky capital. You know what I mean? Like that initial money that you got to put in that people don't see, you know, that's, you know, that the investors put in who, you know, probably have the majority stake in the business. You know, I think Dana's only got, you know, 10%, which 10% is still a lot of that business. But the point is that those guys that put in that risky capital, you know, they got to get a big reward. It's like, you know, angel investors and, you know, whatever. It's, you know, like Shark Tank sort of shit. I mean, they're putting in their money. You know, initial investments in, you know, and companies usually have a higher, you know, risk, but, you know, you have a high upside too. But so you start taking away that upside and then it's like, you know, not as favorable of an investment. And I think initially the UFC was, I mean, it's a pretty risky endeavor. You know, it's like, is TV going to fucking allow this? Or, you know, we're going to be able to get mainstream with that? And I think initially the thought was no fucking chance, you know. Now it's like hindsight's 2020, but Yeah, I mean, dude, I watched UFC 1. I thought it was awesome.
When I first got into it, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I went from the beginning and was just watching every single fight. And there was like shockingly bad ones, shockingly like not enjoyable ones. And then there was just some of the craziest shit you ever seen. And then you just slowly watch it evolve. Like, cause I literally went online and just downloaded all of them and watched them back to back, like the first 100. Yeah. And it was surreal watching it evolve, you know?
Yeah, I remember, man. It was like, you know, these guys, they didn't even have like fighting styles. Some of them, it was like fucking bar fighting was like listed as their specialty. But yeah, it was, and then they didn't have rounds either. It was like no rounds, no real rules. You kick to the nuts, pull hair. I mean, it was
a lot of groin punching.
Yeah. And it's funny because like back then, guy gets hit in the nuts fucking 8 times, he like barely flinches. Now it's like if he gets a cup shot, he's fucking on the ground.
That guy you're thinking of, the Asian dude who got punched in the nuts a bunch of times in like the third one, he was the dude in Austin Powers who threw the shoe. And then also is right now in prison for a gang rape.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so he's lived quite a life. Hey, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe. We just hit 200K. We're trying to get to 300K.
Turn us up.
Appreciate y'all.
Let's go.